Hello, loved ones. This is Matt Stevens, and I am feeling kind of inspired today. And I hope you are doing amazing. So there's that. But this construct that we are currently having an experience in, I believe, at least originally began as a mirror image of what we in here would consider to be the real world, the real reality. I believe this began as a mirror image of that. And it's like, well, why would we immerse ourselves in that, right? Well, because we do emanate from the source, right? The universal consciousness, the source of all creation, God, is emanating its light, its energy out into everything. And we are divine sparks of it, meaning you are part of the source and the source is part of you. You are having these experiences from your perspective. I'm having the experiences from my perspective, and so on. But we put ourselves in this realm, in this construct, for the purpose of having these experiences so that we can experience mortality, so that we can experience polarity, right? So like anything, so because like as we've said, in this construct, you can experience things from extremely beautiful to extremely horrific, and then everything in between. So we can experience polarity here. We can experience mortality. We can discover our true nature. It's like going on an adventure, right? We discover our true creative power. And yeah, I feel like it's important to understand that. And also, if you do understand that, and if you do believe that, it's like, well, if you know that you are a divine spark of the Creator, if you know all that, then how can you not be powerful? How could any person not be extremely, at least potentially, powerful? We are. Every one of us is a co-creator with the big cheese, right? And I mentioned the Archons, and yes, that is a term taken from the Gnostics. And the Gnostics, they've got their creation story, and I love most of it, but I don't necessarily believe that the demiurge created physical reality. I'm not really sure how to feel about that. That's something we should explore further at another time. But now the Archons, okay, the Archons are like the demiurge's minions. That would be the Archons would be the negative entities that have permeated our construct, this realm that we are in. Maybe they've hijacked it. Maybe they weren't intended to be here in the first place. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. That's stuff that we should explore at some point. But the point is, they are here. And so I mentioned the Archons. And like even in my last video, I was talking about how Loosh is produced when we're in those negative states, that low vibrational energy that's produced from negative things. Like during the Vietnam War, there were these helicopter pilots who were given these night vision goggles, these infrared night vision goggles. And they were using them, but they very quickly stopped using them. And the ones who were actually willing to talk about it said, well, we were seeing, and in their words, they said these demonic entities. When they were wearing the infrared goggles, they could see them. When they weren't wearing them, they couldn't see them. And they said these demonic, very scary entities were everywhere. It's like, well, of course they were. It's a war zone. There's lots of fear and anxiety, death and destruction, and just despair. Just so much negativity, so much of this low vibrational energy being produced in this war zone. It would be like a feast for an entity that feeds off of that loosh. That term coined by, I believe, Bob Monroe. Please, if I'm wrong on that, please don't hold it against me. I don't think so. But anyway, so I mentioned the Archons and the Loosh and how they how it's in their best interest to keep us in the asleep state, to keep us down, to keep us in constant states of fear and worry and guilt and all of that, to keep producing that loosh, right? And then there are the elites, the elite ruling class, other human beings just like we are, who know all this, who know all of these things. And they serve these negative entities. They serve them by using their power and their money and their influence and just everything they've got to keep us in the asleep state, so that we'll keep cycling through and never discover our true power and never graduate or ascend out. But they also keep us in that low state so that we can continue to produce that loosh. That's how they buy favor from these archons, these negative entities. And I think it's important to understand that too. I think it's important to understand that pecking order. It's important to understand that there is evil in the world. These archons are the representation of it. Some people call them demons. That's fine. Some people call them jinn. That's fine too. There's different cultures and different philosophies and religions have different names for these entities. I just happen to call them archons. So but I think it's important to understand that is very real, and that there are the people in the world who know this. Now, we hear stories about how, well, there will be people who are born into the ruling class, and they're just brought up understanding it. But then there are also those who are, for lack of a better word, they are just nobodies. People who have come up, maybe they're a singer, maybe an actor or actress, maybe somebody who just suddenly became famous, suddenly had this big windfall of fame and fortune. And in a lot of cases, they will be, like in the military, they'll be read in. But like in the military, when someone is, I guess, screened and then asked to join some special access program, some top secret program, once it's agreed, okay, you're going to join, okay, you agree, okay. Once that's settled, they then read in the person. They will tell them, okay, this is our program. This is what it's called. This is what we do. This is how we do it. This is why we do it. This is our cover story to the public. This is how we're funded. I don't know if they get that deep into it, but that was what they call being read in. And I do believe that the elite ruling class, if they're not born into it, like, for example, the singer or the actor or actress who came up out of the blue and just all of a sudden just exploded onto the scene, and now they're famous and they're all that. I believe that they are read in. They are brought in and said, hey, if you want to take this, you will live a very lavish and luxurious lifestyle full of riches and blah, 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 and all that. But the drawback is we're going to need you to help keep the public in that state that they're in. And it may not be worded exactly as such, but still. So these archons and the elites, they know how powerful humanity are. They know how powerful you are. That's why so much energy, so much effort is spent to keep people asleep, to keep people from waking up. Now, thankfully, there are many people, many more beginning to wake up every day. And as I've said, the rate at which they're waking is accelerating also. But that also tells me that something is about to happen, because everything speeds up. Even time is speeding up. Most people will tell you that time seems to be moving a lot faster these days. But so much energy and effort is being spent to just keep humans down, keep humans asleep and not having their awakenings. And also to keep producing that loosh that the Archons seem to love to feast on so much. But also to keep them under control so that they do not realize how powerful they are. They don't realize how creatively powerful they are. So they continue to produce, consume, obey. produce, consume, obey, reproduce, and then die, and then cycle back through and do it again. Never discover your true power. That it creates the feeling of being trapped. And if you believe you're trapped, well, then you're trapped. And if they can keep people asleep, then they keep this thing perpetuating. But I do believe that, and this will be something for another talk, but I do believe that there are reset protocols kind of embedded in the system to not let it get too far out of control. Because if you look around, there's a lot, it's getting really out of control quick. I mean, we are kept between politics, right wing, left wing, gender, male, female, otherwise, racial divisions, so many racial divisions, classism. Are you low class, middle class, high class? What are you? It's all to keep us divided. Yes, that's true. It's definitely true that all that is there to keep us divided and fighting amongst ourselves, so we never look to see who's the source of the real problem is. But it's also to keep us in feedback loops, to keep you in that feedback loop. It's like they don't care if you are right wing, left wing. They don't care if you are male, female, or otherwise. Pick something. Get pigeonholed into something. Fall into some feedback loop so that you stay on that cycle, so that you're easy to predict, so that you're easy to control, so that you're easy to keep appeased, so you won't look for answers, so we won't look for our true nature, so we won't look for our higher selves to guide us through. Let me check my notes here. Hey, by the way, loved ones, while I do this, if you would, go ahead and hit the like button if you haven't yet done so. That would be fantastic. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed, I would really appreciate that. Also, yes, that'd be great. So, I've mentioned before how the elites, and I'm going to try to keep this PG, but they have their ceremonies. They have where they do sacrifices and things like that. And I've mentioned how the actual victim, that's not the actual offering to the gods or the Archons. That's not the actual, the victim itself is not the actual offering. It's that Loosh, again, that very negative, low vibrational energy that is produced when this ceremony or when this thing is happening. There have been people who have said, and this is just people who have said, that they have witnessed these things going on. They've witnessed these events. And that they've even seen like a black mist like manifest in the room. It's because it's absorbing all of that negative energy and using that power to manifest physically, at least visibly anyway. So I believe it's important for us to know these things. Is it all? And I know that it's like, well, that all sounds really negative, man. It's like, yes, it does, but knowledge is power. And when we understand these things, it's like, well, now I know why it's so important to focus on my awakening. Now I know why it's so important that I turn off the news. I don't allow these negative things into my field. It's so important to understand why these things. So it's so important to understand why it's important for you to connect with your higher self, to seek your guidance, to connect with the source, to connect with God, and get that guidance that you need so that you can have your spiritual awakening. And I don't know how many life cycles you've had. It's not what's important now. Right now, what's important is what's going on. But now, it's like, now I understand. Now I know. Now I can ascend. And also, with that creative power that you are discovering, It's like, well, I am a divine spark of the Creator. I am connected to the all-powerful Creator of the head honcho Creator. There's nothing I can't do. And that way, you, by creating an amazing life for yourself, and by the way, not having to do it by scoring points with the Archons, scoring points with those negative entities. You don't have to do it by doing that. So you're free. You're not under their thumb. You're not in a position where you have to serve them. By doing that, you would be leading others by example. You'll be leading others. The goal is to get to ascend, obviously, but the goal is also to get others, the people around you, to look and think, you are living your life so much differently. What we see on TV or what we see on the internet tells us we need to be doing all these things. And you're doing the exact opposite and living an amazing life. How are you doing it? That is when you can be like, let me show you. But we have to get to that point first, don't we? So I think it's important to understand these things. That's why I talk about it so much. I think it's important to understand that there is so much negativity in the world. It's all by design. It's to keep people down. It's to keep people producing that loosh. It's to keep people cycling through over and over and over again. And yes, I do believe, as I said, I do believe that there are reset protocols set up in the system. Periodically, everything just resets so that things don't get too far out of hand. And if you look at the state of the world, like with the 4 stages of the simulacrum, I said in the very beginning that this construct began as a mirror image of what is the real reality, but I got a feeling it doesn't resemble it at all now. I got a feeling we're somewhere between the 3rd and 4th stage of the simulacrum, meaning it is completely artificial now. It does not resemble real, what it was a copy of in the first place. It doesn't resemble that at all anymore. It's a copy of something that has no original because it has morphed. It has distorted into something else. So anyway, dear loved ones, yes, I talk about that a lot, and I'm going to continue to, not all the time, but I do believe it's very important we understand these things. I mean, I guess the know your enemy part, yes, I mean, we do need to understand what's going on around us and why, but also, what does that mean? That means they're scared to death of you. They know how powerful you are. They know how much energy must be spent to keep humanity down. It's of the utmost importance to them. Why is it so important to them? Because they know how powerful they are, and we are. They know how powerful humanity can be. And if they know if we were to ever figure it out, well, they're screwed. That kind of tells you all you need to know, I think. And that's why it's important to understand that. It tells you a couple of things. One, they know how powerful you are, so you must be pretty powerful. So let's claim that. Let's get into meditation, get in contact with our higher self. I'm awakening. I'm here. Let's do this. Let's make a difference. Let's be that beacon. Let's be that light in the darkness. And have a great time while we're doing it. I mean, right? Why not? So anyway, there you go. And again, if you have not hit the like button yet, please, dear loved one, I would so appreciate it if you would do that. And if you would share this video with someone that you believe would like to hear it, should hear it, whatever you think, that would also be much appreciated, very much. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, that also would be very much appreciated, as always. So anyway, dear loved ones, that's what I got for you. And I do love you. I really do. And I'll be back directly.